Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this because we are looking at something absolutely fascinating today. Imagine, if you will, graduating at the very top of your class, only to step right into this grueling, endless cycle of work. Well, today we're exploring how a completely new generation in China is basically saying no thanks to that path. And by rejecting it, they're fundamentally reshaping their entire tech economy from the ground up. We're talking everything from highly automated factory floors all the way to deeply personal digital twins. We're going to break down exactly what this all means, how it's happening, and, why this matters so much to the global technology landscape. To really wrap our heads around this massive AI boom, you kind of have to step into the shoes of a recent Gen Z tech graduate. Picture this. You finish at an absolute top-tier university, right? And your immediate reality is honestly pretty grim. You just work, 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 work. There's almost zero time to relax, let alone actually explore your passions or figure out who you are. It's this relentless culture of toil, and young people are desperately trying to escape it. And this widespread exhaustion, it's triggered a really fascinating cultural rebellion. It's known as tangping, or lying flat. It's basically a direct social response where young people are actively rejecting that crushing societal pressure to overwork. They're opting to sort of escape just to avoid severe burnout and depression. But here's the thing, they aren't just giving up. No, for many, this is a highly strategic pivot. Escaping this traditional, exhausting labor is actively driving Gen Z towards tech innovation. They're seeking out creative, completely alternative ways to live and work. Which brings us to Section 1, Escaping the Toil Culture and Hangzhou's Innovators. So the epicenter for all this youthful energy is Liangzhou. It's this incredibly scenic, leafy suburb of Hangzhou, and it's become a massive magnet for Gen Z graduates. Unlike previous generations, these kids generally don't have to worry about basic survival, which totally frees them up to reject their parents' old survival mindset. Instead of climbing these grueling corporate ladders in sterile office buildings, they're flocking to places like the E-Moment Cafe. You can literally feel the Silicon Valley vibe brewing here. I mean, coffee is flowing, laptops are open everywhere, and you've got these young creators gathering around open-source AI companies like DeepSeek, basically trying to find their true identity in an entirely new economy. And out of this deep desire for connection comes some incredible technology. Take this app called Second Me. It was created by a young entrepreneur named Felix. So you start by creating your digital identity, your digital twin, using AI, and you program it with your exact interests and philosophical views. Then you just let your digital twin mingle with the digital twins of other people. Finally, the AI does the heavy lifting, finding kindred digital souls and shared ideas for you. Imagine an AI that actually knows your philosophical views, doing all of your networking. And this brilliantly illustrates how AI is being used not just to crunch data, but to build a digital identity that connects human beings more efficiently than ever before. Felix, the entrepreneur behind that app, actually used to live in Silicon Valley. He and his peers noticed this massive new AI wave that was empowering everyday people to build things. So their goal became incredibly clear. They wanted to recreate that exact Silicon Valley vibe right there in Hangzhou. They wanted a dedicated space to gather, to hash out fresh ideas, and really empower everyone to be creators and builders, making individual people vastly more powerful. And this scene? It is radically inclusive. The unwritten rule in Hangzhou's tech ecosystem is that, frankly, nobody cares about your background or traditional labels. They only care about what you can build and what you make. Over the past decade, this really fresh, inclusive environment has fueled a massive cultural shift toward original thinking and innovation. The product speaks far, far louder than the person's pedigree. All right, moving on to Section 2, Automating the Factory Floor. But listen, this generation isn't just building white-collar apps and cozy cafes. The macroeconomic reality of China's industrial automation is staggering. Historically, a traditional factory of this size required up to 5,000 human workers doing grueling manual assembly. But today, just look at the reality of the Zeekr EV factory in Ningbo, which builds vehicles like the Polestar 4. It's highly automated. AI and robotics handle the heavy lifting and the precise assembly, meaning the 1,400 humans left are there simply to monitor the machines that are essentially building the cars all by themselves. So the crucial point is this massive shift from manual labor to machine supervision. Now, seeing machines run the floor is awe-inspiring for sure, but it begs a massive question. What happens to the thousands of displaced workers who would have been doing that manual labor? China already faces mounting domestic unemployment problems, so the state is making a really high-stakes gamble here.
The government hopes that a massive high-tech injection of AI will somehow solve these pressing economic and social issues. They're effectively betting that rapid innovation will eventually outpace the enormous job displacement it causes. Let's zoom out a bit for Section 3, the Global Market Challenge. So what happens when these local advancements step onto the world's stage? Well, take a look at Rocket, an incredibly successful startup creating AI-enabled glasses. The CEO, who goes by Rocket and who ironically loves collecting vintage computers while building the future, returned to China from the US to build this. These glasses are designed under the philosophy that AI needs to be naturally on your face and always with you. The company has significant government backing, and surprisingly, they're finding a massive user base all the way in Africa.
Going global, however, is intensely complicated. I mean, when you have an always-on, camera-equipped wearable backed by the Chinese government entering foreign markets like the US, it naturally invites some deep suspicion. It brings up a humorous but very real question posed by global consumers. Are these glasses basically a Chinese James Bond spying on people? It's a genuine hurdle. These companies have to continually convince the world they aren't secret surveillance tools.
The only way to navigate this geopolitical minefield is strict compliance. Tech companies like Rocket must leave user data completely untouched to strictly follow foreign data privacy laws, like those heavily enforced in the UK, for instance. Rocket points out that when it comes to the fundamental stuff, the algorithms, the hardware, they just have to remain totally open to global standards. It's really the only way to overcome that international suspicion and prove their products are secure. Which leads us right into Section 4, state backing and future tech. Domestically, AI is incredibly popular right now, and that's largely because the government's latest 5-year plan actively opens more and more scenarios for its use. But it's not just functional, it's deeply cultural. We see this with successful startups known locally as little dragons. Take the massive hit video game Black Myth, which is based on a 16th century Chinese novel. It beautifully demonstrates how AI isn't just a corporate tool in China, it's almost like a cultural megaphone. State emphasis on tech blends perfectly with a young generation looking to history and myth to forge their modern identity. Now, when Western observers look at China's rigid political ideology, they naturally wonder how creativity can thrive without traditional free speech. But these young creators, they point out a very different reality. From their perspective inside the tech ecosystem, they feel there are definitely some stereotypes at play. To them, they feel they have total freedom, immense resources, and zero restrictions when it comes to experimenting, starting companies, and building completely original products. The unwritten rule for these Gen Z little dragons is actually pretty clear. They have vast resources to build business products, resulting in incredibly high levels of original thinking. But, and this is a big but, their focus must remain strictly on the tech, not on pushing political boundaries. Within that specific framework, they are wildly creative, deeply embracing their cultural roots. Take an AI app called FateTell, for example. It adapts traditional Chinese fortune-telling by using physical crescent moons alongside digital algorithms. It's this bizarre, fascinating, and highly successful blend of ancient culture and cutting-edge tech. And this innovation isn't just staying trapped inside our phones and VR headsets. The government is going all in on physical high-tech. The ambition here looks exactly like a sci-fi movie. We aren't just talking about clever chatbots anymore, we are talking about actively pursuing innovations that push the very boundaries of reality. The ultimate example, the successful launch and deployment of actual, deployed, pilotless flying taxis taking passengers to the skies without a single human in the cockpit. It's absolutely wild. Which brings us to a critical crossroads. Wall Street is currently sweating over a potential US AI bubble bursting, but with a burnt-out generation finding its second wind in Hangzhou, and a government going absolutely all in on everything, from digital twins to literal flying taxis, it leaves us with one very provocative question. In this rapidly accelerating global AI race, who will ultimately command the skies? Think about that as you consider the future of technology. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring.